Hey guys, what's up? So, if you somehow didn't hear already, Tom Brady has officially announced his retirement a couple days ago. So, really that changes a lot of things for the Buccaneers heading into the 2022 offseason. But before we dive into it, please make sure to like this video. It really helps push my content out and helps a bigger audience see it. And also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future content. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Tom Brady's retirement has really put the Buccaneers into a difficult situation, and I don't really think the NFL world has made a big enough deal about this. And really this issue goes a lot farther than just their quarterback. First, let's talk about how their cap space is very much less than ideal. Heading into the offseason, the Buccaneers' cap space is a little bit over $4 million, and that is not good, speaking of all the players that they have to pay big money to retain. Their free agents heading into 2022 include Rob Gronkowski, Chris Godwin, Pro Bowl center Ryan Jensen, Jason Pierre-Paul, Carlton Davis, and Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. In total, they have 25 free agents that need to be re-signed, and $4 million isn't nearly enough to pay all those players. Chris Godwin alone couldn't get re-signed for that much. And you still have 24 other players that were contributors to your Super Bowl team. And I know you don't have to re-sign all of those players, and people are going to be telling me that in the comments, but those players made a big part of their team last year and the year before where they made the Super Bowl. With all of them and Tom Brady, that would be a huge loss, losing all of them. But it's also not just their players. They could end up losing another person this year that's not a player, but he's a very reliable coach. And that coach is offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich, which had a big chance to end up being the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. But as we know, the Jaguars signed Doug Peterson to be their head coach of the future. And I'm not so sure about that signing. If you want me to make a video about that, leave that down in the comments. But the question is does Byron Leftwich really want to stay for a rebuild with the Buccaneers and potentially lose coaching offers heading down the road? But here's the big question for 2022 for the Buccaneers. Who will be their quarterback next year? Because there are so many options they could roll with next year. You could draft a quarterback, but it's kind of hard when this is a very weak quarterback draft class. And the quarterback you drafted last year in the second round, arguably he would have been the first quarterback taken this year if he stayed for an extra year at college. But I don't think he would be able to. I think he was a senior coming out of college, so he had to go for the draft. But even with that, I would rather have Kyle Trask learn under Brady for a year than go back for an extra year at Florida. But it really depends on how he performed and practiced and learned under Brady and what Arians thinks of Kyle Trask. We know Bruce Arians loves their other backup quarterback, Blaine Gabbert, but how likely is it really that they're going to have their starting quarterback be Blaine Gabbert next year? I just don't buy it. Even if he's your favorite guy in the world, I don't think he's capable of leading a football team. Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, and Marcus Mariota, those guys are all free agents, and even Cam Newton. But all those guys are kind of a last resort option, arguably, or even I'm not really sure they're starting caliber. And even if they are, they're in the lower part of the NFL in starting quarterbacks. But another option for them to consider is if you want to trade for a quarterback, this would be the year to do so. There are 3 superstar quarterbacks that you could potentially trade for in 2022. That include Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Aaron Rodgers. Or if you didn't want to give up a king's ransom for one of those guys, I'm pretty sure you could get a pretty good deal on a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, or even Carson Wentz. It will be interesting what they decide to do next year at that position. But do the Bucs even have a chance to get into the playoffs without Brady next year? Because that's a pretty big question, and it's still nagging at me. because their defense is still a very good group, even if they do lose a couple of those key players. Because Devin White, Levante David, those are both such good players to have in your linebacking core. But it would be interesting if the Bucs bring back Jameis Winston to their team. I feel like that would be a really cool story. But I feel like the Saints would have to trade for one of those quarterbacks for that to even have a chance of happening. Because if the Saints can't pull off a trade for one of those guys, they're just going to re-sign him. But if Winston, if he could somehow get to the Bucs, that would be really cool. Because Winston, in his 7 games in 2021, he had 1,200 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and only 3 picks. And that's a fraction of what he had with the Buccaneers a couple years ago when he threw 30. He only had a 59% completion percentage this year, but that's mainly because of 1 or 2 games that skewed the data a little bit. But the Packers game, week 1, that just kind of showed me that I feel like he could be a lower-end starting quarterback in this league, and he doesn't deserve to be a backup. Because in week 1 against the Packers, he owned them. He threw 5 touchdown passes and no picks. So my record prediction for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is 8-9 next year with the QBs they have in their hands right now. But if they trade for one of the better quarterbacks, that record prediction could easily change. So let me know what you think in the comments. How do you think the Bucs are going to do next year without Brady? And again, make sure to smash the like button because it pushes my content out to a larger audience. And also make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And that's pretty much going to wrap this video up. See you next time.